This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses. Okay, I'm going to do a bit of a video here looking at some new Marshall tones that I dialed in the other day, kind of based on this idea that Noel Gallagher was saying that Marshalls had kind of one sound. So I've found what I think is the best Marshall, I think, in the Helix, which is not a coincidence that it's also the newest one. So this is the Brit 2203. Now, the law with this is essentially that Brit 2204 was the JCM800 that we'd had in there, I think, since the start of Helix. And people on the internet started to say, you know, early on, you know, this doesn't sound quite right to me. You know, people that reasonably might have had a JCM800 and stuff like that. And over the years on the forums, it's transpired that, you know, a bunch of these are based on real amplifiers that of course Line 6 have in their amp room, but over the years those may have been modified from stock, you know, potentially, particularly the Brit 2204, I believe, has had the bright caps removed, which is, you know, a fairly common mod for these types of amps as I understand it. However, the Brit 2203 is stock, and also crucially, I think this is one of the first amplifiers where you've got the low-high input thing going on. In the Fender world, this would be like a 6 dB cut. I don't know exactly what it is in the Marshall world, possibly something similar. But either way, you get a very different sounding amp. When you go between the two. So let's look at the other elements of the signal chain first, and I'll actually maybe just take these down in the mix. But I've got my normal dual delay, 375, 500, 7162. The mix is at 23%. For the purposes of this demo, I'll take that down to 13. And then there's no modulation on. And then I've got my Glitz reverb, which is, I think, my favourite reverb in the world, actually in a mix, and does this lovely bloom. And again, for the purposes of this demo, maybe we'll take that down a smidge. But those were the settings. Now, I've also got here the cab. I use this cab for a lot of stuff. This is the Cali V30, and I use the 67 condenser, and the position that I go with is 3.9. I've got a high cut here down at 4 kilohertz. Now, this should work quite nicely if we were to plug it into like a PA system. As you open that up, you get a bit more of a direct kind of sound. Okay, and then lastly, I'm pushing the front end of this with a compressor. You may want to back that off. You know, I'm using a Les Paul here, so what I might do would be to turn the sensitivity down. It's also pushing things by plus 12 dB, so a little bit of compression going on there still, even with the sensitivity at 0. And then the amp itself. So for this clean tone, what I'm going for is more of like a sort of cranked master type tone. So I've got the low input, but the master up on 7. I've got the presence here at 4, and the treble at 8.6, the mids at 7, the bass at 5.7, and the drive is up at 8. So this is kind of like maybe getting into that slightly kind of plexy kind of territory. The higher we go on the master, you're going to start to involve those power tubes a bit more. or you can get it basically clean if you take that down. So use the master volume, I guess, with the drive to kind of balance that up. This is kind of like my cleanish edge of breakup kind of vibe. I think that sounds really good as well. I'm kind of thinking more in terms of like Landau, Marshall tones than some other kind of stuff. Then I've got the mid-gain settings, which takes the drive down to 2.2 and the treble down to 2.4 and the master up to 7.5. So this is now kind of like, oh, and then the input changes to high. That's a crucial difference here, right? And then this is kind of like a... bit more rounded if I turn that high cut back down to my stocking. If I open it all the way up, that's basically, you know, a little bit more on the spiky side. I kind of like things a bit darker and smoother. Without the delay and reverb, you have like a kind of crunchy. And then lastly, we've got the lead tone. And for that, what I'm doing is I've got the drive up to 8, bringing the master volume down to sort of tighten things up a little bit, so that's then down to 4.5, still on the high input, treble down at 2.4, and the presence, the bass and mids haven't changed across those settings. It's just basically an interaction between treble, drive, master with this high-low input. I think it's an incredible sounding amp. I really like it with the V30s, but of course, if you wanted to use like greenbacks or something like that, that's totally an option as well. If we got something similar sounding with greenbacks, 3.9. So yeah, if someone wants me to put that together for Podgo as well, someone out there use the buy me a coffee link, and I'll do that. But I just need to find time to do it, so you know the coffee will instigate the motivation in me to do that. I'll catch you in another video soon. That's called Marshall 2203 More. I'll drop that up into the Gumroad folder. I think it's already there. But I'm really enjoying playing it at the moment. Of course, this is with a Les Paul with a Strat. It's kind of got a more kind of glassy tone, but just sounds incredible, I think. Definitely my favourite Marshall in there now. Cheers for stopping by.